So, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Hey, what really happened in history? What are some facts about the movie? Who got Montezuma's revenge? Did they really live in Bolivia? Was the shootout a fake? Find out next on Robberies Gen X Pop Culture. Hey, welcome into Rob Rides Gen X Pop Culture. And with me, as always, is Heather. Hey, Heather, how are you doing?
Doing great, kind of, except for football. But
Oh, yeah.
other than that, doing great. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, except for football. Football, bad weekend for sports for my teams. Both lost and
Yeah, I got
Yep.
one more coming up. Maybe my salvation tonight. But
We'll hope so. It's your Lions, right?
yeah, against Kansas City.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. But anyway, guys, we have a great show for you tonight. I want to say hi to a couple of people. Lombardi 1969 has jumped in. I want to say hi to you. Theta the Grid. How are you? Theta the Grid. And SP4H, I thought was in here a little bit ago too.
Yep,
So,
I think you saw
um,
him. Lombardi, 1969.
yep. So, want to say hi to everybody. So, we got a great show, action packed, jam packed. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. We're going to tell you about the three main stars, a little bit about the gang, and then we're going to flip and talk over about the movie. We'll tell you some funny, cool stories about the filming of the movie, and then we're going to get into the movie itself. I got some wonderful slides of the movie. As we get into the movie, we'll pause with talking about the movie and give you some of the actual history because we've got details about some of the robberies. We've got details about their trip to South America and what happened there. And then we'll tell you about the awards from the movie. And finally, we'll speculate about, hey, did Butch and Sundance survive? There have been all kinds of rumors and all kinds of speculations, but what do historians say? What really happened? You're going to find it all right here as we talk about this awesome movie and this awesome history. So buckle up, everybody. Here we go. Let me bring our slides onto the stage here for this first part, and we will go back to the original slide here. Sorry about that, folks. I didn't have it set back to the first one. And we're going to start with the main protagonist of the movie. Well, really, I guess protagonist or an antagonist because we're dealing with villains, right? Heather, thoughts on that? Protagonist, antagonist?
Well, Butch Cassidy is a funny character. I'm sure you'll get into it because he kind of seems like a little bit of both. Was a charming, charismatic guy, and was not known as very villainous, even though he stole. Right? People didn't know him as kind of a nasty, violent guy. He was a very kind of nice, affable fella. So yeah, I don't know. He could go either way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Um, as you can see, there's a wanted poster. There's a picture of really a young Butch Cassidy. There's another picture we have later on in the slides, and it'll show him at an older age. The Sarge just came in. Hey, the
Hey,
Sarge.
hey,
Hope
Sarge.
hope you're doing well. All right. So Butch Cassidy, his real name, Robert Leroy Parker. He's born April 13th, 1866 in Beaver, Utah. He was the oldest of, I think, around 8 or 9 children, which is significant because he would be somebody that the younger siblings would definitely look up to and definitely were responsible for family finances as his parents got older. So there's stuff to that. Keep that in mind as we go forward. They were of the Mormon faith in Utah, which is not uncommon for that region. He left home as a teenager working ranches, and in his journeys working ranches, he met a cattle thief named Mike Cassidy, who became his mentor. Now, there's speculation here that at the time that his dad had the family ranch, that Mike Cassidy might have been somebody that they hired as a ranch hand. We don't know for sure. I couldn't find any specific evidence. All I know is that at some point he met Mike Cassidy, and Mike Cassidy was a mentor to him. He worked several ranches in addition to a brief apprenticeship with a butcher in Rock Springs, Wyoming, where apparently he may have gotten his nickname Butch because he was, apprenticed to a butcher. And he had the last name Cassidy in honor of his friend and mentor. You're going to find out later as he really formed his gang, he used the moniker Butch Cassidy to protect himself and his family name as well. So a lot of outlaws would do that to protect their family and to also go as an alias so that they could maybe do something else as their real persona. You got to understand at this point in time, you didn't have as many photographs. That's why it's so hard to find some photographs of Butch Cassidy. You have one of him as a younger man, and you have one of him as an older gentleman. And we're going to talk about the importance of that photograph later on. But at that point, changing names without knowing the face or something like that could help an outlaw hide. So keep that in mind here. So his first criminal offense was minor. Apparently in 1880, when he was still relatively young, he journeyed to a clothing shop in another town and found it closed. He broke into the shop and stole a pair of jeans and some pie, leaving an IOU promising to pay on his next visit. What happened was the person that owned the shop pressed this that I can't say I would blame them for. And he was charged and arrested, but guess what? He was acquitted by a jury and they let him go. So that's interesting, significant, but it's not uncommon. You would think a young man doing that, not uncommon for those times. But Robert soon entered the life of wild west crime, rustling cattle and committing other petty offenses. By 1889, he rode into the big leagues, successfully robbing the San Miguel Valley Bank in Telluride, Colorado, with associates Matt Warner and Tom McCarty. They stole around $21,000, which was a lot of money back then. Fleeing in the rough country, they lost their trackers who were after them in the wilderness of the canyons and hidden valleys and high peaks. They hid out in what's known as Robber's Roost in Colorado. In 1890, with his share of loot stolen in Colorado, Cassidy purchased a ranch in the outskirts of Du Bois, Wyoming, where he was known to have rustled cattle and horses. This location across the state was known as the notorious Hole in the Wall. Hole in the Wall got its name because of the natural geological formation and popular hideout for outlaw gangs, including Cassidy's. Some historians surmise that the ranch was never really used as a real ranch. It was just used to plan and plot nefarious activity. Butch and his pals also constructed special leather bags to carry loot when they would rob things, and they would lay out escape routes in advance. So Butch was known as the gentleman planner of the Old West. One of the significant things that he did that really hasn't been recorded in other robberies, Heather, and I don't know if you know this, is that they would do kind of a Pony Express style getaway. So he would plan a robbery of a bank or a train, and 5 or 6 miles down the road, they would have people with fresh horses waiting for them so they could switch out their horses and still maintain their distance from the lawmen that were chasing them on fresher horses as the lawmen's horses got tired, which was a unique and interesting way to plan these out. He was also very careful in how he would plan the robberies, leaving no detail to consequence. The other good thing about that is most of the time in most of the robberies, hardly anybody was ever killed. And, while there was damage to buildings and things, you didn't have people that suffered major injuries or died from those injuries, which is unusual for banditos back then.
Mhm.
A lot of them would just kill just about anybody and rob them and go on their merry ways. But no, that's not Butch's style. Like I mentioned, he changed his name to Butch Cassidy to protect his family, and he chose Mike Cassidy as his mentor. In around 1894, Cassidy became involved romantically with an outlaw rancher, Ann Bassett. Bassett's father, Herb Bassett, was a wealthy businessman, and he would supply Cassidy with fresh horses and beef. That year, Cassidy was arrested in Lander, Wyoming for stealing horses. This is an interesting arrest because there's speculation that it was set up. There's also speculation that what really happened was the prosecutor had gotten a hold of the person that they had faked a signature for to testify, and then he went to jail. And apparently, in prison is where he might have first met the Sundance Kid. In 1896, after a stint in jail, he went right back to his old ways. There was a pardon, a partial pardon, that he wouldn't rob anybody in Wyoming, not including trains, and he supposedly kept most of that promise, but there's speculation there. Officially in 1896, he did meet a stoic, handsome former cowboy turned outlaw from the East named Harry Longabaugh, best known as Sundance Kid. And the last bit about Cassidy is, despite his criminal background, by all accounts, Cassidy was charming, well-liked thief who never, it is believed, killed anyone. Cassidy also had a reputation for keeping his word. As one story goes, Cassidy asked to be released one night before his sentence. This is in Wyoming, promising he would return to jail the following day. The authorities took him at his word, let him go, and he returned the following morning. So very interesting stuff about him. We'll get into the exploits of his gang coming up soon. But let's talk about the Sundance Kid. Heather, what have you got on the Sundance Kid?
So the Sundance Kid was born Harry Alonzo Longabaugh on May 24th, 1867, in Montclair, Pennsylvania, to Pennsylvania natives Josiah and Annie Longabaugh. He was the youngest of five children. I think that's kind of interesting, where Butch was the oldest, he's the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, as a kid, according to stories from people who knew him, he liked to read adventure stories of the Wild West. At age 15, he traveled west in a covered wagon with his cousin George to help settle George's homestead near Cortez, Colorado. While he was there, he found work as a wrangler at a neighboring ranch, where he learned horsemanship, how to breed, how to buy and sell, how to ranch. He eventually left Cortez in 1886 and struck out on his own, drifting north and working on ranches as he went. He ended up finding work at the Enbar Ranch in the Montana territory, but there was an exceptionally hard winter in 1886 to 1887, where about 40,000 head of cattle died from the extreme conditions. So the ranch had to lay off most of the wranglers, including Longbaugh. Um, so that means he ended up kind of drifting, looking for work again. In 1887, at age 20, he was traveling across the 3V Ranch near Sundance, Wyoming. There, he stole a gun, stole a horse, and a saddle from a cowboy. He was captured by the authorities, and he was eventually, after a trial, sentenced to 18 months in jail. There was some bargaining where he pled guilty to one or two counts, um, and got the other one waived. But after that instance, is when he adopted the nickname the Sundance Kid, uh, basically because he spent time in the jail in near Sundance, Wyoming, and all the newspapers at the time, when they were writing about the crime and his sentence, referred to him as the kid, because he was 20 years old, and I guess he looked really young. So there are multiple newspaper articles referring to him as the kid, so he gets the Sundance Kid. After his release, he goes back to working as a ranch hand. He worked on the Bar U Ranch in Alberta, Canada in 1891, which was one of the largest commercial ranches at the time. Also became a joint owner of a saloon for a little while, and ends up taking another job at the N Bar Ranch. And at this point, he begins rustling cattle and horses both in Montana and Canada. Sundance was suspected of taking part in a train robbery in 1892. Apparently, at a saloon in Malta, Montana, he was drinking with a couple of other men. And I guess being drunk, they just decided it would be a good idea to rob a train. Clearly, Butch Cassidy's planning skills, because the robbery didn't go very well. They didn't account for the fact that no one on the train knew the combination to the safe there. It was on a Sunday when banks were closed, so I guess apparently that they weren't transporting much money, so they got about $63 from the robbery, and then they just go back to the bar in Malta to drink, and they get arrested. Fortunately for Sundance, the conductor never saw his face, and he only identified the other men that took part in the robbery. One of the men confessed, and he gave authorities the name of Longbaugh as one of the people who participated. But Sundance had given them a fake name, and they just didn't put two and two together, and he gets away. He does stay out of trouble for the next few years, working again as a ranch hand back in Montana, where he meets Harry Logan, who is Kid Curry, who is also a member of Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch. Um, it's not known exactly for certain, it's not documented anywhere where Sundance and Butch Cassidy actually met, but it's assumed to either be through Kid Curry or around the time of 1896 in Wyoming when Butch Cassidy was assembling that group. Sundance was working as a ranch hand around that hole in the wall area. Sundance had a reputation as being fast with a gun and an accurate shot, and sometimes was referred to as a gunfighter, eventually becoming more well known as a gunfighter than Kid Curry, who was one of the most notorious killers in the gang. And that's where they meet, where we start our story with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Heather. And then we've got another figure that's a part of the movie, Etta Place,
And
and she's the mystery woman of the West. But
she is.
you could tell us a little bit about the mystery woman of the West and a little bit about her. I imagine that was hard to find a lot of history about her.
Yeah, most of the history on her is theories and speculation.
Mhm.
She's known as the companion of the Sundance Kid, but other than that, next to nothing is actually known about her life, her origin, or her fate. She's estimated to have been born around 1878. A lot of people in their descriptions of her said she's kind of medium to tall, slender, auburn hair, but she was always kind of described as very pretty, or even kind of a knockout. She was considered very attractive at the time. The Pinkertons described her as having classic good looks. Around the time they were pursuing them, about she was about 27, 28, kind of average height. So just kind of a typical description, describing her as more pretty than not, I would say. But theories about her identity that I read included the names Ethel Bishop, who was possibly a prostitute or possibly an unemployed school teacher. Other speculation included the name Ann Bassett, which you had mentioned she was with Butch Cassidy. That one's probably pure speculation. I don't think there's anything to that. Another one is Eunice Gray, a brothel operator in Fort Worth. Um, there's just quite a few holes in all these theories, right? She's likely not any of these women. She's probably just an average woman who ended up falling in love with Sundance and ended up then being part of their group. But there really is no preserved documentation about her. She's last seen in 1907. It's the last documented sight of her, and that's presumed to be around when Etta's relationship with Sundance ended, but possibly not. There's also speculation that he had returned to the US with her and still stayed in communication with her. Um, I thought this was funny. Larry Pointer, he's the author of a 1977 book called In Search of Butch Cassidy. And he wrote that Etta Place's identity and her fate are one of the most intriguing riddles in Western history. Leads develop only to dissolve into ambiguity. So very interesting. She's definitely the mystery woman and probably, what she wanted. She probably didn't want a lot known about her, right? Considering uh her affiliation with Butch and Sundance, and it's probably better for her to not be known. But
Yeah.
very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, so a couple things real quick with her. This is the photo on the left side right here, um, is actually the passport photo from the Pinkertons.
Mhm.
Uh, that the Pinkertons got a hold of their passports when they traveled to
Yeah.
Argentina. So that's her passport photo. Apparently, this is a photo of her and Sundance. Apparently, there's no documentation of this, but apparently, uh, when as we're going to see, as they went to New York, I'm just gonna throw this out there that Sundance Kid introduced her to his folks as his wife, and so
Yeah,
there's speculation that they were married, but there's no documentation to prove
right.
it. So, um, just want to throw that speculation out there. So, when we look at these things, what we want to do is we want to tell facts, and then we'll tell you other stuff, but we're going to tell you, hey, it's speculation. There's no way for us to prove it. There's speculation that this is a photo of when Longbaugh's family was on like a picnic before, when they were in New York before they left for Argentina. That she's somehow in there. I don't know. That's speculation. I threw it up there just to let you guys know. There's another actual photo of her, and then this is a painting of her. So I wanted to clear the air about that just to make sure, and want to say hi to FKHC 2005 and Darth Wanker, and then Crouching Taylor Hidden Swift. Thank you guys for joining us um, as we talk about Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the gang real quick, and then we'll get into talking about some of the facts about the making of the movie and get into the movie itself here. Um, so the gang was known as the Wild Bunch, and um, upon his full release in 1896, Cassidy resumed his criminal life with several other well-known outlaws, including his best friend William Ellsworth Elsie Lay, Harry Sundance Longbaugh, which is the Sundance Kid, Tall Texan Kilpatrick, and Harvey Kid Curry Logan. They formed a nucleus of the group known as the Wild Bunch. Cassidy embarked on what was considered the longest stretch of successful train and bank robberies in American history. Uh, and others in the group included Harry Tracy, William News Carver, Laura Bullion, and George Fat Nose Curry. The group took its name from the Doolin Dalton gang known as the Wild Bunch. And here's a photo of, supposedly of the Wild Bunch at the ranch that Cassidy bought in the hole in the wall. That's a supposed photo. I don't know if it's true or not. Um, there are supposed photos of some members of the gang, but this is the famous photo taken in Fort Worth. Uh, and we'll talk about it as we get there. But this is Butch, that's Sundance, and this is Harvey Logan, who plays an important part of the movie. This is Ben, the tall Texan Kilpatrick, and then I forget who this one is. I know it's not Elsie Lay. Think it I think it's one of the Carvers. So that I can't remember who that one was, but I can name four of the five. But that's a cool photo of them, and that's significant. And we're going to tell you more about it as we go, because Fort Worth is an interesting aspect of it. And this supposedly was their hideout, hole in the wall, a couple of other hideouts, kind of today, where you can see aspects of the ranch. There was a fireplace. This is where the ranch once stood. And then this, we're going to talk about them as we talk about the movie. This is the Pinkertons. Apparently, these are some shots of the Pinkertons. Two shots that I was able to find. I can't tell if this is the Pinkertons that chased after them, or if this is another group of Pinkertons that chased after a different group. But this is what I was able to find. And then this is kind of their badge. They were kind of a private detective agency hired by the railroad is
Mhm.
basically what they were. And they were paid a lot of money, as you're
Yeah.
going to find out in the movie. But I wanted to show those things for you. Just real quick about Fort Worth, Texas, which I live real close to one of my homes in the North Texas area. At this time, it was known as Hell's Half Acre, the area where they went. We'll talk about this a little bit further, but the significance of the photo. And then this, as we get into it, is a picture of the ranch that Butch Cassidy bought down in Argentina. which we'll talk about as we get there. But let's talk about this amazing movie. Heather, as I switched gears from this, from something, wait a minute, hold on. We got more slides here as we talk about the movie. Heather, what were your thoughts on the movie overall as we get into kind of the filming of it? I mean, it's a great movie. I think it's one of the best Westerns I've ever made.
It's a great movie, it's a fun movie, and, I think they did a great job with the characters, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, because Butch Cassidy, part of the reason he was able to get away with a lot of these crimes is because he was charming, very personable, people liked him, and a lot of people would help him as he would be trying to hide or get away. In addition to them kind of stashing supplies in different places, he had a lot of help. He had a lot of friends, and he was known to kind of spread money around it. I think the movie does a great job of showing who these characters were. Um, Whereas like a lot of these outlaws were killers and were very violent. He did not have that kind of personality. And then Sundance, who was, not mean, but people kind of thought he was because he was very quiet and he was not popular. He was very popular with the ladies, and I think we can. It's a good casting of Robert Redford for that role, but definitely in that aspect, they definitely captured who these characters are in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I totally agree. But did you know that Robert Redford was not the first choice to play the Sundance Kid?
No, I didn't know that. Not
Well,
until you laid it out here.
yeah. So, yeah, I think this is a great movie, by the way. And folks, we're going to get into kind of the making of it. But guess what? Did you know it started out with a buddy picture for these two guys, Paul Newman, and guess who else? Steve McQueen
Steve McQueen.
was
And
involved.
yeah, I mean, I love Steve McQueen, but I don't think he fits this role as well. I love a lot of his movies, but yeah, this was one of those great twists of fate where you end up with Robert Redford because I think that's the right casting for the role for
Hmm.
sure.
And apparently, what happened was McQueen wanted equal billing with Newman, and then he wanted his name first. And honestly, guys, you get a lot of this stuff in early Hollywood and probably
Right.
modern Hollywood where, hey, I want my name here and I want billing here, and they just couldn't work the deal out and had to get somebody else. And the director chose Robert Redford, who was a relatively unknown at the time, but I mean, Robert Redford stands out in this movie. I mean,
Yeah.
he's phenomenal. So I'm glad we got Robert Redford.
He's great
Uh,
in this role, and those 2 have great, chemistry together, just the same way as they did in The Sting. I think the 2 of them together just work great.
I do too. So this one and The Sting are great movies. I like both of them, and I was surprised that because of their chemistry that they didn't make another couple of movies together.
Right?
Because I would have made at least 3 or 4 movies with those two because you could
Yeah.
have made so many different buddy pictures with them that would have worked out great.
Mhm.
But it wasn't meant to be. So, but at least we got what we got. All right. So speaking of Redford, the first shot of the movie was one of the train sequences. And Heather, do you know what happened?
Yeah, I'd have to find it. You'll have to
Okay. Well,
find it.
so the first thing they shot was a train sequence, and part of the reason is they were able to get the locomotive for a little while, but also they wanted to be able to shoot it. I think in September, late September, early October, before you had a lot of snowfall. And so the person doing his own stunts was Robert Redford, and so he was jumping from train car to train car, and essentially Paul Newman pulled him aside and said, "Hey, you may want to get your stuntman to do these." And no, I can do them. I want to do my own stunts. I'm trying to establish myself. No, let
No.
me explain from a veteran actor. I don't want my co-star getting hurt because then I have to find a new co-star or we have to delay filming. So
Yeah, talking some sense into, the younger guy who's all gung ho here.
Yep. And so that's basically what happened. So that's an interesting aspect of this movie that you had one of the first shots. One of the famous scenes or infamous scenes that we're going to talk about is obviously one of the train robberies and the explosions. One of the big things about this is back in those days, you had multiple camera angles, but what they did was they did different things with it in slow motion on different cameras at these different angles. And so the explosion is a combination of different pictures in slow motion. And I copied a little bit of that in the photos, and you'll see some more of it as we go through the slides from the movie. But it's interesting how they shot that, which was significant and interesting at the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say what they used here, right? Because it looks like they would like dangerous, but you're getting
Mhm,
it from the it's is that because of the angle? Because there's no
mhm.
way that you could have them standing there with that actual shrapnel coming towards them. I mean, you would just get full of splinters and whatever else. I mean, they're this is it's a great shot because it's got to be with the way that it's filmed there.
Oh yeah. Then it was one shot deal, one explosion, multiple cameras, multiple speeds.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
so
cool.
it adds to what the cinematography of this movie is, and we'll get to that soon. Folks, there's a woolly bully in this movie, an interesting story about the bull. So, and it's
Yeah.
not a BS story here. So you remember the famous scene on the bicycle? He crashes into the gate. The stuntman does, and then Paul Newman replaces him. Well, they had a bull, and the bull that they got was flown in from Los Angeles, a very famous bull, won a lot of awards and different things. And the bull was supposed to charge him. Well, it didn't charge him like they wanted at first. So, you know what they had to do to the bull?
This was terrible. I think this is cruelty. I was I was very disturbed by this story, like, I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right. Yeah.
No, no, it's not right.
This is a
They
terrible thing
shocked
to
him.
do.
Yeah, they shocked him in his nether regions
Ah,
to get him to go. Uh,
was the Humane Society on set monitoring this shock? I don't think it's
No, I don't think so. And
true.
and there's another thing that's questionable thing to animals that we may talk about later on that they do to a mule in Mexico that's not good. But anyway, they shocked the bull. They had to do it several times, and apparently the bull didn't mind. I don't know why, because I would not want an electric shock anywhere near that part of my body. But yikes!
It must have some tough skin.
Yeah, yeah.
It
I
didn't even
mean,
feel it. Good
yeah.
lord.
I mean,
That is
oh.
not
So, but
that's
yeah,
not
that's another
nice.
story from the set. I mean, my goodness, ow.
Yeah, that's not nice. That poor bull, I feel bad for him.
Yeah. Hey, did you know a star was kicked off the set during filming?
Oh, was it Catherine
Yeah.
Ross?
Yeah, Catherine Ross.
Was she? Because right, okay, she was dating the cinematographer, so she was getting special access to the set, and she ends up, what, sitting in the director's seat and filming a scene and where she wasn't
She was
supposed
manning a
to?
camera.
Manning a camera, okay. Yeah, she's filming a scene, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when the director found out, he kicked her off the set and said, "You're not to come back unless
Busted.
you're working." You
Right,
know, he was
right.
frustrated about that because obviously the director, she kind of feared the director to begin with. He was kind of mean to her, to put it lightly, but also, he wants a cameraman that knows what they're doing.
Well,
So
and of course, can't you see, like, that's her boyfriend, and he's like, "Oh, do you wanna you wanna man the camera?"
yeah, yep, exactly.
Poor judgment, but
Yeah. By the way, did you know that her future husband was also in the movie on a bit part?
really? Who was
Yep.
that?
Oh, you know who Sam Elliott is?
Yeah, is that her husband?
Yeah, that's her husband. And guess what? He had a bit part as card player number 2 in the
Oh,
beginning opening
wow.
scene. Yeah. So
I
you
can't believe
barely
I
see
didn't
him.
I can't believe I was gonna say, I can't believe I didn't recognize him because I love Sam Elliott.
Well, I don't know
Um,
that he had a mustache at that time, but
it must
yeah,
have been really young,
yeah,
but I did not recognize him.
yep.
Did she meet him on this set?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow,
So
cool.
yeah. So interesting stuff here. All right, guys. We'll talk about filming in Mexico. Montezuma's Revenge. So, folks, they
Uh,
filmed the Bolivia scenes in Mexico, and Heather, what's one thing that if you go down to Mexico that you definitely don't want to do?
What did Sammy Hagar say? You don't eat the ice, but drink the water. Or he had that backwards. Don't drink the water, but you can eat the ice. But don't drink the water for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Evidently, the whole crew and most of the cast, except for the 3 stars, ended up drinking the water and got Montezuma's revenge, which, if you don't know what it is, look it up because it's too disgusting for me to describe here. But apparently, Newman, Redford, and Ross like to party a lot, and they had a lot of alcohol brought in, and they were drinking alcohol and Coca-Cola and didn't partake in a lot of the local water. So they did not get Montezuma's revenge, which was good for filming, but bad for the people that had to actually make the shots, which is
Yeah.
interesting. So, folks, when you go to Mexico, don't drink the local water. It's not good.
Darth Wanker says, crap on, crap off. The crapper.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, there are other famous movies where you had similar problems that
Yeah.
happened. One of them being Raiders, that is back up on this poster behind me. But yeah, it's funny. But those are some of the takes of the film. We'll tell you a little bit about the finances and the success of the film after we wrap up the talk of the deep cut into the film. Let me close off these slides and bring up the slides from the movie here. You can see the poster of Raiders right here too. But let's add to the stage some slide shots. And folks, I want to let you know I found these shots on the web. So when I was pausing, the play button would not disappear. So there are some with the play pause button. Sorry, couldn't get a better shot with it. But we're gonna go through these shots and we're gonna tell you about the history. Let's get into this film because I love this film. It's great and it's uniquely shot, Heather. I think it's great. So here we go with the black and white opening,
I love this
which I thought was
part.
really cool.
I think this was a good choice because it kind of gives it that documentary type feel. I think there was a little bit of that type of shot of shooting on Tombstone too at the beginning, and it just makes you feel like you're really looking at a more of a realistic documentary type movie. It's interesting.
Yeah. And I had to get this shot because we're talking about it. Most of what follows is true, which you're going to find out they did have a lot of that stuff. But these shots of Newman right here, I mean, that's classic, black and white, beautiful, you know.
Yeah, beautiful.
And
Oh,
then
I
that's a
love that.
great one.
I love that shot, like at the card table, like hat down low.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool. He looks great in these shots.
yeah, very intimidating.
Yep, intense. Yeah, I love it when they stand up and he realizes who he is, who he's talking to. That was
Hmm.
funny. This is a great scene.
Yeah, and Butch is like, hey, we can let it go, let it go. He has to ask us nicely,
Yeah, these are fun.
which I
Cool
thought was
shot.
really cool. And then there's them going to the hole in the wall. Oh, hang on. What am I doing?
So this was cool, a little bit about, the areas that they were in. There was Brown's Hold in Utah, which was kind of, Butch's first hideout area, and it was right on the border of Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado, so it was really easy to evade lawmen from individual states or that covered specific territories because they would just cross the border. It's right in those kind of that corner. The hole in the wall was in central Wyoming, and it's a very remote area. It's really wild, but it has a narrow pass along a cliff, and so it's easily defended by 2 men. It was said that 2 men could defend against an entire army because everyone would have to kind of advance single file along a narrow path. And then there's Robber's Roost in Utah, which was a fallback position that they had. It was what was known as the Outlaw Trail that went through Utah and up to Wyoming, and that's the trail where they used to kind of leave horses and provisions and had friends that they knew along the way. And it was actually considered really dangerous for lawmen to go into that area because there was such a big criminal element and people that were actually friendly to them. They didn't know the area. It's very remote and treacherous. So I thought that was kind of neat. It kind of shows how they could be so blatant about all these robberies and just get away.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So here's Harvey Logan, which is a cool scene that we're gonna talk about the knife fight, but let me catch you up with some of the history here. Their first robbery occurred in August of 1896 when Cassidy, Leigh Logan, and a man named Bob Meeks robbed the bank at Montpelier, Idaho, escaping with approximately $7,000. Numerous robberies would follow in South Dakota, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. Between the robberies, the men hid at the Hole in Wall Pass, located in Johnson County, Wyoming, and we just talked about it here. And then we're getting ready to talk about another actual robbery as we talk about the movie. But I love this knife fight scene.
Yeah, this is a good one. And Logan was known as one of the more vicious members of the gang and had
Oh yeah,
killed, I think, 8 or 9 actual
mhm.
lawmen.
Yeah. I love the line here. He goes, "If he kills me, shoot him."
Yeah, this is funny.
and
And I
then,
wonder, I don't know if Butch was challenged in reality for the top position. I doubt it, but it did say that he attracted kind of the most notorious, some of the smartest, best, because they wanted to he was known as such a good planner that they wanted to be part of his gang, but these were men that could have had their own gangs because they were the more established, more successful.
yeah. And I love this scene. Let's establish the rules. There are no rules in a knife fight. And then
And he kicks him, that was great.
yeah.
I
Somebody say one,
love
two,
that.
somebody say go. 1, 2, 3, go.
This was brain over bronze for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. It's funny. And then he finds out that Harvey had a plan. And so we get to the infamous train scene here, and you see Sundance Kid, like I mentioned, he did his own stunts at that time. I thought this was another cool shot that just seemed so folks when I make slides for any kind of movies, I always like to get wide shots which show the scenery, which just is so awesome. But folks, this is them robbing the stage the first time, and I love this. The guy in there is just, "Hi, Butch. I can't let you in. My boss will kill me." But the actual robbery in June 1899, the gang, including Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, Harvey Logan, and LZ Lay, robbed the Union Pacific Overland Flyer passenger train near Wilcox, Wyoming. They wore masks made from white napkins, possibly stolen from Harvey House Restaurant. This holdup yielded between 30 and 50,000, made the gang nationally famous, and resulted in a massive manhunt. The New York Herald stated they were lawless men who have lived long in crags and become like eagles. So, kind of interesting, robbing this train here. And you see kind of Butch not wanting anybody to get seriously hurt, checks on the guy to see if he's okay while they blow the safe.
Yeah, and that was great because this happened, right? The way they blow the safe, and I don't know if it happens in 2 incidences, the way that it's shown in the movie, like, back and forth, but I know that they did have the guy is a real guy, the guy who doesn't wanna open the door, right? And, they do blow it, and then they blow the safe, and the money goes all over the place, that's in the later scene. So this is taken as pretty accurate to what really happened.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And so we see later they're in the town and they're seeing the law trying to get posse together, and meanwhile they're at a brothel drinking beer, watching, which I thought was hilarious. And what's even funnier is you try to get a posse together, and this guy comes up and hey folks, let me tell you about this new invention, a bicycle. And I just thought it was hilarious. There's so many funny scenes in this movie that I just love.
Yeah, it's really funny, but you can kinda see, right, it's more modern, this is a
Mhm.
little later than a lot of westerns that you see take place,
Mhm.
and you're already getting more civilization in, and so you can kind of see that with the bicycle and some of these other scenes.
Yeah, and then Sundance goes, "I'm gonna go find a woman." He goes to kind of the schoolhouse where the teacher's located, and we have this interesting scene. Now, kind of kind of freaky if you first see it because you don't know what he's really doing here, and kind of risque. Um, but she kind of undresses for him, uh, and then you
Well,
come to
are
find.
they trying to, like, trick the first time watchers into
Yeah, I think
thinking like,
so.
"Oh, he's this bad guy," and I
Yeah,
don't know, I didn't really buy it. I don't think when I
yeah,
watched it because she doesn't look scared enough. It kinda seems like it's,
really.
not, yeah.
So, and folks, no, Heather's not going to recreate this scene for you guys. I'm
No,
sorry,
definitely not.
not going to happen.
Definitely not.
No, I thought it was interesting. Just kind of had sex appeal to it though, because I thought the actress is really hot. Catherine Ross is beautiful. I mean, gosh, she's gorgeous in this. Uh, but anyway, so that gets us to the next scene, the famous bike ride. Um, which Burt Bacharach composed it, and you have "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head" by B.J. Thomas. Which, guess what? Robert Redford did not like that song
Really?
until he finally saw the movie, and it finally grew on him. He just didn't think it had a good place in the movie. But we've got the bike riding scene, which I think is great. I think it just
Well,
adds
how
to the
would like,
character.
they wouldn't have played it during filming,
Mhm.
though, they would've that would have been put set to the film after,
Yeah,
so
when he saw it, he didn't like it, and it took him
huh,
like years to come around to it. So,
interesting. I think it's great, it really fits that section of the movie.
oh yeah, there are like 3 or 4 musical sections of the movie, which I think do it good. So,
Herc. No, Herc 130 says, "Would you reenact it for a $2 super chat?" Nope. $2 no holla. No, no, thank you.
no, sorry, I don't have super chats yet because I'm not
Okay.
monetized, but I could use your help in getting watch hours to get me monetized. But
Yeah.
no, I don't think Heather would do that. Maybe if she had $1 million one, she might think about it, but I don't know what
No,
her limits are.
no, no.
She's too classy a lady for
That's
that,
right.
folks.
That's right.
Yeah, way too classy. All right. We're getting more shots of this. Hang on. What is going on here? Let's go. Where they pick the apple off the tree. Uh-oh, what happened to Heather? There she is. Hey guys, are we still live? Hey guys, are we still out there? Hello? Oh, Heather dropped off. Okay. I don't know what happened to her. Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll try and get Heather back. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she dropped off. I guess she may have had an internet issue. We'll see. Hopefully, hopefully she's back on in a minute. Hang on one sec, guys. Hang on one sec, guys. Yep. Okay. All right. So hopefully she'll be back on in a second. I think she had some technical difficulties. Don't know what happened there. That's kind of odd. Wow, guys. I mean, we talk about some. We had a joke, and then okay. So bear with me one moment through these technical difficulties here. Okay, I'll let you guys know when she comes back on. I think that she's have has some technical difficulties. Anyway, she grabs the apple, which is great. I thought that was kind of cool, cute scene, and then she goes in the hayloft and she's watching him do all kinds of bike riding, some goofy stunts. I would probably do some goofy stunts for a pretty girl like this too. What about you guys? And then we have the scene where he crashes into the thing. He uses stuntman, and then Newman replaces him. Paul Newman replaces him right there. And then we have the bull, who we talked about. And so had the bull charging, and then they get back on the bike and head back to the cabin. And I love this scene. He goes, "What you doing? Stealing your girlfriend? You keep her," which I thought was pretty funny. So yeah, just a funny scene. And I think the other thing about it is it shows that there was something there between Butch and Etta, but she's with the Sundance Kid now. Oh, and hey, guess what? We got Heather back. Okay, there you are. Technical difficulties, right?
God, yeah, I usually have 2 computers. I use, like, one to stream on and one to watch the stream on so that I'm not in 2 windows. I can see both at the same time and instead of 2 monitors so that I don't have to flip windows, but that computer just died. It's like a super old computer. It just, like, the
Mhm.
whole screen went black, it just died. I'm like, "Okay, fine."
Oh, that sucks.
So, yeah, now I have to flip back and forth to see the chat, which kinda sucks.
Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks.
Yeah, I hate doing
Um,
that's okay. Well, I'll manage. I'll manage.
Lombardi 96. Did Heather push the red button?
I was
Well, I
trying to push the button.
uh, oh man. So we got through the whole scene, the raindrops had fallen on the head, and then the cow charging, and then getting to here, which I thought that's a funny line. Stealing your girlfriend. You keep her.
Yeah. Yeah, Sundance. He's not quite the charmer that Butch Cassidy is, right?
Yeah. So and then they go and rob the flyer again, which I don't know if they robbed it twice. I think they did. I think what happened was it was robbed within months apart, not like they planned it in
Not
the movie.
there and
But
back. Right.
yeah, not there and back. No, but it was
Yeah.
apparently it was the same agent. And before we get into this robbery, let me just tell you a couple more robberies um, about them before we introduce and I tell you more about the Pinkertons. So, with each robbery, the Wild Bunch became better known and liked by the American public, eager to read about their exploits. Unable to stop the bunch, the Union Pacific went so far as to propose pardon to Cassidy for the promise of ending his robberies and coming to work for the company as an express guard. Um, it says Cassidy turned down the offer, but apparently another story that I had that was floating around was a lawyer friend of Cassidy's had arranged a meeting with the railroads. Cassidy showed up, but the group from the railroad, along with his lawyer, were late meeting him. He waited all day, and then he left a note saying, "Hey, no thanks, but no thanks. If you guys aren't going to bother to show up, you double
Mhm.
crossed me," and that kind of stuff. I don't know this if that all that's true, but that's apparently what happened. August 29th, 1900, Cassidy and Longabaugh and others robbed a Union Pacific train number 3 near Tipton, Wyoming, of about $55,000. The 5 bandits include Butch and probably Sundance and Harvey Logan. Also suspected were Ben Kilpatrick, Will Carver, Kid Curry, Tom Welch, Billy Rose. Tipton was the first crime in which Butch and Sundance certainly have agreed to have teamed up. I don't know. It might have been before them. But anyway, we see the scene here where he's not going to open the door, and you have the lady that comes out, and then you see her here, and they kind of take her as a captive, and he opens up the tray. And I thought this was a funny scene because you hear her reciting the prayer, and it's not really her; it's actually
Right.
Butch pretending to be her. And this is the
That
only
was funny.
scene that in the making of it that the director hated. He just
Really?
hated that because he didn't like Butch having to fake her voice or anything like that. He
Oh,
hated the whole thing. So
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the first robbery, right, where they get her to or the first
It's the
time they
second.
rob the train.
This
It
is
is the
the second.
second because I thought the first one they blew it up, right? Or that's the one they blow up the safe.
So the the first one they blow up the door. The
Right.
second one is where they're going to blow up the safe, where they have the big explosion that we talked about, and they said lay the
And
explosions and boom.
and I think in reality, right, that happened in the same robbery, the
Hmm.
blowing up the train car first, and then they go in, the safe is still there, and they blow up the safe with dynamite too.
Yeah, the other thing that I read about that they would do, so I don't know the intricacies of the actual robbery, but I read about what they would do is they would uncable the passenger cars because you had the engine and you had the cars with the safe, and then you had the passengers. And they would actually uncut cable the cars with the passengers, get the locomotive to go further down the tracks with the thing they were going to rob, and that's why you didn't have people that were killed or anything like that. And then
Hmm.
you would also not have as many witnesses to see that. That's what I had heard about some of these robberies. But anyway, there's another shot of the explosion, and wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Nice.
all that money.
Well, then yeah, that really happened that they're like, the money blew all over and they're trying to snatch it out of the air, and
Mhm.
I think they ended up snagging about $30,000 from
Yeah.
just scooping it all up off the ground and from the air.
Yep. And then you're seeing a smokestack in the background, and ooh, what's coming now? All right, so this is the people that chase after men. So many notable lawmen of the day took part in the hunt for the outlaws, but they were not found. Kid Curry and George Curry shot and killed Sheriff Joe Hazen during a shootout with lawmen following a train robbery. Tom Horn, a killer for hire employed by the Pinkerton Agency, he's one of the big ones that they talk about in this movie. Obtained information about the Hazen shooting and then passed this information to another detective, Charlie Siringo, who was assigned the task of capturing the outlaws. Siringo became friends with one of the brothers' wives, and basically she told him how to locate the gang, and that's kind of how the Pinkerton gang, Pinkertons, kind of found them and chased after them. And so you get this whole chase scene where they've got three different areas where they're being chased. So um, in reality, what they did was they went down to Fort Worth after some of this. The Pinkertons were after them, but they didn't have any photos. And so in Fort Worth, Texas, as I mentioned, it's Hell's Half Acre where the West began, and it was a cow town. It was basically you brought your cattle to Fort Worth and they shipped off to the east, the west for meat. And just about all the famous outlaws were there at one point because they all worked as ranchers part time in between all of this. So
Mhm.
you had everybody there, but it was called Hell's Half Acre because they were raising hell down there because there were bars or saloons, whorehouses, all kinds of stuff, casinos, everything was in that area of Fort Worth, and it was near the stockyards, which today is just called the stockyards in the stockyard area. And what happened was Butch and the gang decided to have their photo taken. They were down there for a wedding apparently, and all of them were kind of dressed up, and they took the photo, and each of them got copies of it. And the person who took the photo is that the shop is still there, put a copy of that photo because it was such a good photo in his shop. Well, one of the Pinkerton detectives came by like 2 days later, recognized him. I recognized kind of one of the criminals, and then found out about the five guys, and then used that photo to put out the wanted posters. And so it was at that point that the gang kind of decided to be on the run from the Pinkertons. And it's the idea where South America really crossed Butch's mind, and Sundance was the only one that was willing to go out of the country with them. And that's how it happened. Here in the
Yeah,
movie,
but yeah, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing about the Pinkertons, right, is, they weren't just local law enforcement after them, they were a national, highly paid because by people who are trying to protect their money. And they did kind of like is depicted in the movie, even though that direct chase scene that didn't happen like that. But they do depict how they all come out of the train car, and the Pinkertons did have
Mhm.
their own train cars for horses, so they could get their horses and supplies and everything moved all over the country very quickly. And their horses were specially trained
Mhm.
to pursue outlaws, and so they were a serious deal, much more serious than any kind of local lawmen would have been to them. And so that's kind of part of what plays into that too, right?
Yes, absolutely. And here you see, they go to the brothel, and they had things set up with the guy that was going to tell them, "Hey, no, they went that way," but they come back.
So
And then
this
yeah,
is after the jump scene, right? Though, isn't this after they're
no,
full of
this
the
is before the
horses
jump
and the?
scene.
Oh, this
Yeah,
is after that, before it. Okay, because I
yeah.
know they take off, they get chased for a long way, and then they end up here, right? And he
Mhm,
kind of talks about um, he's willing to make a deal, maybe join the army,
mhm.
turn himself in. And I think you had mentioned the scene with the lawyer, because at one time he was thinking of making a deal, Butch was, to go straight if he could. And that was kind of where he thought he had been betrayed by his lawyer who didn't show up, and really just the train was delayed. Um, but
Because of a
he,
thunderstorm, yeah.
yeah, but he was like, well, screw you, then I guess there's no deal. And he continued with committing more crimes.
Correct. And so there was two other incidents with Butch. So there was one incident where Butch and Sundance, and I can't remember. There was another one where they were going to go fight in the Spanish American War. That's the thing about the army. But they found out that a lot of the lawmen that were chasing them were signing up to go to war. So he quickly said, "No, I'm not going to fight a war with the guys that are trying to chase me, because they'll just get me when I get back." So you had that. And then, yes, there was another instance. The instance that we just referred to was with the railroads. There was another instance where he was looking for a pardon from the governor of Utah, and that fell through as well with the lawyer, apparently. So yeah, there were some instances where they did try to go straight, which is an important thing to talk about because of what we're getting to towards them going to Argentina. But yeah, this is the brothel. Then they go from the brothel. You have the scene where he tries to get their horses to scatter, and they won't do them because they're trained. And
That
that was
was
a hilarious scene.
great. That was
Yeah.
a great scene. I love that.
And there's one with this sheriff that they knew, who they try and say, "Hey, what do you know about these guys chasing us and stuff?" And he's like, "You came in here, you can't do that." And they end up having to tie him up just to protect him, which I thought was hilarious. It's just a funny scene. So, and then they start going up in the canyons, and they find the watering hole, and Butch jumps in it thinking they got away, and Sundance is like, "Nope." And then by this time they separated one horse, and that they weren't falling for that either. And so here we go with the final canyon portion, which is totally cool. I thought this scene was awesome. So you got
Yeah.
this beautiful canyon, and then you like this line? You want to give away the line? The rubber.
When he says, "I can't swim," and then Butch is
Yes.
like, "Well, how the fall will kill you," after he just, starts cracking up. It's one
Yeah.
of the best scenes in the movie, and it's invented for the movie, but I thought it was brilliant. It's so hilarious. This is a great scene, and it works so well with the chemistry that these two have together.
Yeah. And so just so you know, guys, they filmed that. Newman and Redford really did jump to a platform. The area where they shot this, the water wasn't deep enough for stuntmen to actually make the jump. So they went back to California and shot in an area where it was safer for uh, stuntmen to jump. And they put them up on a long crane, and the stuntmen make the actual rest of the jump. And the stuntmen are in the water going down the rapids. And apparently, if you look closely, the stuntman who is playing the Sundance Kid, his mustache falls off a couple of times.
Jeez.
Yeah, so theirs in the water.
Yeah, this
I don't
actually
know.
looks kinda fun,
Oh, yeah.
sliding down the rapids. It's pretty
Well,
cool.
I love the banter back and forth that they added over there. "Will you quit holding on to me? I can't swim. I can't swim."
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I love the scene.
Yeah. Anyway, they make their way back to Eda's place, and she tells them, who's chasing them, and she has food and provisions for them, which is cool. And then they make a decision here. What do they decide?
Decide to go to South America,
Yep. And
which
decide to take her with them.
yeah, yeah, which she kind of agrees to. That's interesting too because I think, you know, by all accounts, what had played into their decision to go to South America was a little bit of the dying of the Old West. And you kind of see some of this conflict in other Western movies, right, where civilization is starting to encroach. And you see it a lot like with the ranchers, but here they're saying there's more phones, there's more photographs, there's more modern technology coming in, and Butch was smart enough to realize that this his lifestyle couldn't continue here. The cattle industry in Argentina was kind of picking up, and since he knew ranching, he thought this would be a great opportunity to go to South America.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. You had that, and also the silver mines in South
Mhm.
America too. So mining in that, and so we have them leave, and I didn't shoot it, but he tosses aside the bicycle. Uh, had
Yeah.
lost for the bike. So which
That bicycle filming scene actually looked kinda dangerous when they were doing it with her sitting she's sitting on the front of the handlebars and, like, her
Mhm.
nightgown's hanging or robe or something. I kept thinking it was gonna, like, get caught up in the tires, and she's barefoot. I'm just, like, ugh, cringing through that whole scene. It just
So you wouldn't want to do that scene with Paul Newman either.
well, maybe sitting in his lap? That would be a nice, I would like that. Up on those handlebars with, like, a long robe, I don't think so.
uh, yeah, I mean, and later on, that bike would be found in the basement of the Alamo, but that's another story for another day.
That's another story.
So anyway, I love these shots here. This
Mhm.
is another musical number that they have where basically what they did was they took still photos and inserted them in these photos for New York. And I just thought this was brilliant, especially going black and white with it.
Yep, it's such a cool montage. Again, looks like realistic, old-fashioned photography, and so much it's such a great way to sum up the journey, right, of them, like, going to New York, taking off on the trip. It really does a great job conveying that kinda journey and the photographs that they would have taken. It's really cool. I love that one.
With the fair. Yeah.
Yep.
And this is on the boat. And so let me tell you a little bit more about them going down to South America. With the gang breaking up and feeling continuous pressure from numerous law enforcement, Butch Cassidy and Harry fled to New York City. So apparently, Longabaugh and Etta fled to New York City first. Butch apparently went back to Wyoming to sell his ranch at Hole in the Wall and meet them there. While they were there, apparently, this is supposedly that he introduced his folks to her, and he introduced her as his wife, although no marriage certificate or any record exists. So that's where you get kind of the closeness. And they met together, and then February 20th, 1901, along with Edith Place, Longbaugh's female companion, they departed for Buenos Aires, Argentina, not Bolivia, aboard a British steamer, Hermanus. Cassidy posed as James Ryan, plays his fictitious brother. After their arrival, they settled in a 4-room log cabin on a 15,000-acre ranch they purchased on the east bank of the Rio Blanco near Chohila, just east of the Andes in the Argentine province of, I'm going to butcher this, Chubut. So it's interesting. So let me give you kind of an idea of the timeline here, and tell you just a little bit more about the trip to South America as we get into just the talking about it, and we'll get into more details about that. So it took them a couple of weeks to get there by steamboat. They arrived in March 14th of 1901 in Buenos Aires, and then traveled to buy the ranch. They purchased land there, and they built a ranch and ran cattle Locals describe them as wealthy, polite North American ranchers. The Pinkertons did confirm their location through informants. But really, there's a quiet period from 1902 to about 1905 where nothing happened. Spent several years in there ranching. The Pinkerton reports notes on the ranch well stocked with horse and cattle. By 1905, the Pinkertons tipped off the Argentine authorities. Rumors swirled that an extradition might follow. So that's what kind of triggered some events here. But apparently, during this period, you did have several apparent crossings back to North America where they would come back. And let me just tell you about that real quick. So
Well, so
apparently,
I think you want to
yeah.
talk about like the movie shows them instantly going into a life of crime,
Mhm.
right? And that's where we differ from reality is they
Correct.
started out as ranchers living fairly peaceably, traveling back and forth, um, not really jumping right into the criminal activity. They kind of skipped that part entirely in the
Mhm.
movie. And I think you can kind of see though from these pictures, right, why they had to go back to being criminals is they definitely like to live the high life,
Mhm.
spend a lot of money, and I don't know. There's speculation as to why they got involved back in crime again, but one of them I would say is that they needed the money because they definitely like to spend based on these pictures.
Oh, absolutely. And just so you know, I'm not going to go through all the details. I've got a lot of them, but and this is according to the Pinkertons. So the Pinkertons had some research. They found what was going on. They just couldn't catch them when they came back. So apparently, Sundance and Etta returned in around 1903 to visit family and to settle different affairs. Butch returned in 1904, traveled alone or with Sundance. To check on money and family. I know that there was correspondence between Butch and his sisters back and forth as well. They have that on record, and the Pinkertons were able to intercept some of their correspondence, so that's how they knew where they were. Etta probably returned in 1905 to handle some of the finances. Apparently, she was handling some of the finances for the ranch at that time, is what they claim. And then Cassidy and Sundance may have returned in 1906, and then we're going to find that Etta may have returned in 1907. So that's some of the stuff. But let's get into some of what they did after they sold the ranch. This is another picture which I thought was really cool of them kind of
Yeah.
partying, living it up. But yeah, this is them in the movie here, and we're going to pick back up.
So they did it kind of in a comedic way in the movie, right? Like they get there and it's kind of a dump, and I think that was more for comedic value than historical accuracy, right?
Yeah, yes, yeah, and basically in Bolivia, they had a couple of different robberies, and you'll see some of them. A lot of it was you didn't have the trains, but you had all kinds of different stuff. So they robbed some banks. So which
Go back to what you know, what you're good at.
yeah, yeah. So hang on, we'll get there. So this is them there, and then this is them scouting out the bank. So fearing law enforcement had located them, they sold the ranch. They went across. They actually, so folks, in real life, most of this takes place in Bolivia in the movie, but they were in Argentina, and then basically the Pinkertons gave want ads and potentially a extradition order. So they fled Argentina for Chile, and then started robbing banks in Chile and in Bolivia. So it's interesting. So anyway, they you know
Trying to evade the law, right, by crossing borders and
mhm.
dodging,
Yeah.
stay
So
one step ahead, kind of like they did in Wyoming, Utah, Montana,
mhm.
kind of shift around and avoid detection.
Yeah, they also did some robberies in Argentina, according to this. But basically, what they did was um, they did some robberies, and Etta was part of it, but I don't think I read anywhere where they recorded that she actively participated. So we see, I love this scene. So she's teaching them how to speak
Teaching of
Spanish.
Spanish, which is pretty funny.
Yeah,
Um, this was
and then
funny. I thought the way they did the scene, right, the robbery scene was funny where they're, like, reading off a note when, like,
yeah.
clearly, it's an invented scene because they had lived in South America before they started committing crimes again, what, like 4 or 5
Mhm.
years. They would have spoken Spanish at this point. But this is so funny when they don't know what to say. When they're practicing back and forth in the bedroom, getting out their notes, and then during the robbery, he just pulls out his note and starts reading it. He's like, "They're already against the wall," and then he
Well,
says, "When they
you
already
already have
did
their
that."
hands up. Yeah, which is
It's so
hilarious.
funny.
And then you see her role probably was more around the horses and the getaway stuff. So I think she was away from the banditos, but it shows her shooting, which is interesting in this. And then you have her participating. Now, there's speculation. Apparently, the Pinkertons said that she may have participated in one or more of the robberies and may have gotten wounded. Apparently, there may have been a fourth person that joined them and then helped them rob the bank and then went away with his portion of the cash. I don't know the specifics of it because the Pinkerton report doesn't give you all the specifics. So you can imagine it, but you can't, really get it the right way. And then here's where you see the wanted posters, which had come up before Banditos. And then again, they're living the high life. And apparently that's expensive steak.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so,
They definitely like to spend the cash, so
mhm.
had to keep getting more.
And they did try and go straight for a while, working for part of the mine. So this is factually true.
Mhm.
Um, they started working for as payroll guards, and basically they would go to the mines and they would help this out. And I like this scene uh, where they do that, and then can I move? And then he
Yeah.
starts shooting here. It's like, oh, okay, you can shoot. All right.
Yeah, that was funny. So I had actually read, like, part of the speculation is that Sundance had actually, gone to escort Etta back to San Francisco, like, this is the
Mhm,
time when she wanted to leave,
mhm,
and so he actually escorts her back to San Francisco. Butch gets this job, guarding the payroll when Sundance is gone, and then Sundance joins him when he comes back to South America. That's, like, one of the a speculated account.
mhm.
I've seen it read it in quite a few places in several sources, but hard to say if that's true or not, just because no one really knows what happened to Etta, and no one knows for sure if he went back with her or not, so, but yeah, it is true that they did work as, payroll guards, which I read another report too that said the reason that they did that wasn't because they were trying to go legit, they were trying to scope things out, like, right,
Mhm.
like, find the best way to actually rob it was their motivation to do that.
Yeah. Also, with the mines, the miners getting paid large sums of money at the time, that was probably more luxuriative than
Yeah.
banks because you didn't
Oh,
have as much
sure.
in banks.
Yeah.
But you see them go against the banditos. I love this. Like, we don't want to kill you. Just give us the money. That's not ours.
Right. That's funny.
And then they shoot them. And yeah, this is the scene where Etta leaves. Um, and then we get to kind of the facts surrounding their deaths. So, um, do you want to read that first one about their death?
Well,
About
you'll have to do
actually,
it because 'cause I'm on limited
oh, okay.
screen now, and I can't see any of
So
that.
here's some of the facts surrounding the death. So on November 3rd, 1908, which 68 years prior to Rob, um, that's a joke. It happened on my birthday. Um, so near San Vicente in southern Bolivia, a courier for the, I'm going to butcher this, Arameo, Frankie, and CS Silver Mine was conveying his company's payroll, worth about 15,000 Bolivian pesos by mule, when he was attacked and robbed by two masked American bandits believed to be Cassidy and Longabaugh. The bandits then proceeded to the small mining town of San Vicente, where they lodged in a small boarding house owned by a resident miner named Bonifacio Casola. So, just so you know, guys, there was supposed to be an $85,000 peso payroll, and when they robbed him, he told them no, that's next week. So they got the dates wrong.
Oh,
Um,
geez.
and so part of the reason for taking the mule was because of that. Ordinarily, you wouldn't see them steal a mule with it. They usually would have their own bags and rob the payroll and go off on their horses and stuff because you don't want to leave anything to chance. But they took his mule because they were so upset about that. Apparently, they told him to have a nice day and were actually nice about it, but they took the mule with them too, which is just hilarious.
Which
I
is
just
how you know, right, that it's Butch Cassidy, right? That they're like, "Oh, have a nice
yeah,
day." That's
yeah.
funny.
And so you see this in the movie where they only get a little bit of it.
Right.
Anyway,
Oh, and
Casola became.
I
Go ahead.
found it now. I found it now. I can read that or read later,
Yeah,
whatever.
go ahead. Go ahead. The
You want me to
number
do it?
two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Casasola became suspicious of his two foreign lodgers. They had a mule from the Aramile mine, identifiable from the mine company brand on the mule's left flank. Yeah, probably not a good idea to take those mules. Casasola left his house and notified a nearby telegraph officer, who notified a small Bolivian army cavalry unit stationed nearby. The Abaroa Regiment, the unit dispatched 3 soldiers under the command of Captain Justo Concha to San Vicente, where they notified the local authorities. On the evening of November 6th, the lodging house was surrounded by soldiers, the police chief, and the local mayor, and some of his officials who intended to arrest the Arameo robbers.
Yep.
When the soldiers approached the house, the bandits opened fire, killing one of the soldiers and wounding another. A gunfight then ensued. At around 2 a.m., during a lull in the firing, the police and soldiers heard a man screaming from inside the house. Soon a single shot was heard from inside the house, after which the screaming stopped. Minutes later, another shot was heard. The standoff continued as locals kept the place surrounded until the next morning, when, cautiously entering, the authorities found 2 dead bodies with numerous bullet wounds to the arms and legs. One of the men had a bullet wound in the forehead, and the other had a bullet hole in the temple. The local police report speculated that, judging from the positions of the bodies, one bandit had probably shot his fatally wounded partner to put him out of his misery, just before killing himself with his final bullet. In the subsequent investigation by the Tupiza police, the bandits were identified as the men who robbed the Arameo payroll transport. Still, the Bolivian authorities didn't know their real names, nor could they positively identify them. The bodies were buried at the small San Vicente cemetery, where they were buried close to the grave of a German miner named Gustav Zimmer. Although attempts have been made to find their unmarked grave, no remains with DNA matching the living relatives of Cassidy and Longabaugh have yet been discovered.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. And that's what really happened. But I thought it was cool how they shot it here,
Mm-hmm.
where they get attacked and then it's just the police and they're going for their extra bullets here, which is cool. And then there's a scene right here. So you got the mule, and basically they attach some kind of wire to the mule to make it fall down, which is awfully dangerous for the animal. It's not legal in the United States, but they were filming in Mexico. So I'm so glad it wasn't hurt or harmed.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
could have killed the
Hopefully
mule,
they're
which is just not
better.
good.
They have better things, better rules governing that kind of stuff now.
Yeah, thank goodness. So this is the cops, and then they get the army, and the army's all set up, and then they're basically shot up, and they think that it's just the cops, that they can still get away, and you have the famous
The
almost
charge.
postcard scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think, is kind of a more dramatic way. They basically killed themselves in real life, right? To,
Hmm.
kill Sundance, probably to put him out of his misery, or vice versa, and then, killing yourself as a shot to the head. But this is like a dramatic Hollywood way of portraying that, right? Because you're
Mhm.
charging into a full army and you're just, you're going to die, right? You're just going to charge in and kind of make a last stand and that's it. So interesting portrayal.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's incredible. Heather, do you want to talk about the movie and the success of the movie?
Yeah. Let me see here. Mm, Sorry, it's a little harder with my more limited setup here. So, let's see. It had a budget of 6 million and a box office of 102.3 million in North America. Wow, that's a huge profit. The film grossed $82,625 in its opening week from two theaters in New York City. The following week, it expanded and became the #1 film in the United States and Canada for 2 weeks. It went on to earn 15 million in theatrical rentals in the United States and Canada by the end of 1969. According to Fox Records, the film required 13,850,000 in rentals to break even, and by December 11th, 1970, had made 36,825,000. So made a considerable profit to the studio. It
Mhm.
eventually returned 45,953,000 in rentals. Man, that's compared to stuff today, it's amazing, because they
Yeah,
didn't spend much and just huge profit. That's incredible.
yeah.
Uh,
Went on to win some awards too.
yep. Won 4 Academy Awards: Best Story and Screenplay, William Goldman; Best Cinematography, Conrad Hall, who's the one who got his lady friend in trouble;
Uh-huh.
Best Original Score, Burt Bacharach; and Best Song, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. Wonderful. Won 9 British Academy Film Awards: Best Film, Best Direction, Best Actor in a Leading Role, Redford; Best Actress in a Leading Role, Ross; Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Editing, Best Original Music, and Best Sound. Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I think it's one of the best films and one of
Yeah,
my favorite westerns. I mean, it's just fantastic.
yeah,
Um,
incredible.
but we're not done with the story. There's speculation that they may have survived. So let's talk about that real quick as we wrap up. So I'm going to begin this portion with just some facts that we have. So historians basically take the word of the police and the Pinkertons because you had correspondence with family members up until this time, and the correspondence had stopped. So
Mhm.
that's a fact according to the Pinkertons that correspondence had stopped. Um, you got eyewitnesses of banditos being killed. They couldn't positively identify them.
Yeah.
And honestly, I watched that show about the DNA, and they couldn't positively identify them either. But let me tell you just real quick with that. The graves in Bolivia, they bury people on top of each other. And
Yeah.
so there was an instance where they were trying to dig down into Zimmer's grave and over by it, but there was a little girl that was buried there that the family wouldn't give him permission. And
Mm.
there's speculation that they may be buried underneath her and they couldn't go that far down. So who knows? They couldn't get DNA evidence. But here's
Right.
the other fact that I want to bring up that's interesting. So in 1909, which would be not long after this happened in November 1908, a lawyer in the United States reportedly contacted officials in Wyoming and Pennsylvania, where Sundance's family lived, asking about Harry Longabaugh, the Sundance Kid, and his estate. The idea was someone, unclear if it was a family member or another interested party, wanted to know if Sundance was alive or dead so his estate could be settled.
Hmm.
If Sundance had really died in November 1908 in Bolivia, news of the deaths would not have immediately reached the United States courts with any reliable legal fashion. The inquiry in 1909 suggests that people still didn't know his fate, or perhaps had reason to believe that he might still be alive. So don't know, that's speculation, but there was really an inquiry in 1909. There's actual records. So those are facts.
Right.
Uh, let's get into some of this speculation because some of this is from family members. And honestly, um, I love the idea, but honestly, Heather, real quick, just before we get into this, what are your thoughts, real
Don't
quick, before we go through some
Yeah,
names?
don't you think, I mean, to me, you just would go with the facts and what's documented. I
Hmm.
mean, it would be incredible for them to have pulled off a disappearance, right? Like a fake death and disappearance. I know people have said, there were a lot of outlaws that could have matched this description, right? There were a lot of people robbing banks, robbing payroll, robbing mines. That weren't Butch and Sundance, that it was not that uncommon, and they could have, so maybe that's not them. But to me, the Pinkertons had tracked them down, right, in Argentina. They were on their trail all the way through Chile and Bolivia. They were tracking their correspondence back to the US. I just find it hard to believe that they would have just lost them, right? Like they would have just been able to come back to the US. Um, that talk to their family, kind of disappear, change their identity. It just doesn't seem very realistic to me that they could have done that. I don't know, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So I agree with you. I'm going to take the historians and just historians view and just based what I've got on facts that we can
Yeah.
find. Um, it may have been Etta that made that inquiry for all we know
Mhm.
in 1909, which is interesting. But here's the other thought that I had. When you think about kind of their pattern, so they got this ranch in Argentina, and then they, tried to go straight for a few years, but when the law came coming, they went turned back to what they were doing. They lived a wealthy lifestyle. They liked the finer things. If they had come back to the United States, wouldn't they, they may be able to live it up for a while, but when they go back to some of the similar things to live that same lifestyle? That's my thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. It
Um,
seems to me like they would have had a tough time being inconspicuous, right? Like
mhm.
just the taking of the photo in Fort Worth, and they kind of splurged there and had a big party, and they just kind of like to live it up, and just the fact that they would have come home, kind of been incognito, lived on a ranch, kept quiet. I don't see. It just doesn't fit their character at all.
No, and I don't think so. And that's what I think with human nature. And that's why I don't believe there are lots of rumors about different outlaws doing that. And I don't believe that they could have done that unless they were in a remote area
Yeah.
where nobody was going to catch them.
Yeah,
But
people don't really change, right? I mean, I
no,
know, yeah, maybe once you get older, you're more prone to do something like that, but I find it hard to believe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So here are some of the claims, and this is speculation. This is mainly by family members, but uh, there were big claims that they did not perish. Josie Bassett claimed that Cassidy come visited her in the 1920s after returning from South America, and that he didn't die until about 1940. Another claim was made by Dr. Francis Smith, who claimed that he had treated Cassidy and told him, who had told him that a surgeon in Paris had altered his face, which I don't believe back then, and showed Smith a repaired bullet wound that Smith recognized as work he had previously done. I just don't believe any of that. Locals of Cassidy's hometown in Utah claimed that he had worked in Nevada until his death, notably Cassidy's sister, Lila Park Benson, who I think was alive when this movie was made.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I
Stated
think
that her
so.
brother had
Yeah.
returned to the family home in Circleville in another town, Braggs, Wyoming, a popular destination of the Wild Bunch during the raiding years. Others claimed that Cassidy had visited in the 1920s. Cassidy's sister would also report that Butch lived out his years in the Northwest and died in 1937, and that the family had agreed not to disclose his final resting place,
Hmm.
saying they had chased him all his life and he's now going to rest in peace. There's speculation with Sundance that he may have settled in San Francisco and supposedly died in 1936,
Hmm.
none of which can be proven. So,
Right. Yeah, it's all talk.
yep. So I don't know. It's speculation here. I mean, I'm more to go with the historians and kind of the facts here. But what are
Yeah,
your thoughts? Let us know in the chat or let us know in the comments.
yeah.
So
And
anything else to wrap this up?
yeah, here's someone in the chat was asking what kind of guns that they used. So I looked up this. It says according to Antiques. and the Arts Weekly that the authorities actually found a used Winchester 1892 carbine in Bolivia, and that was kind of what that they both Butch and Sundance used. Butch Cassidy, they said, also used a Colt single action army revolver, and also the Winchester 1892 carbine. And Sundance used the Colt single action and used a Winchester 1892 rifle.
Yeah. So this, I got some information about supposedly what was found on them when they died. So Butch Cassidy, apparently he was a Colt 45 revolver still in his right hand, hammer cocked, spent cartridge in the chamber, 6 extra cartridges in the leather boot loops, clothing dust, straight wool coat, slightly torn from gunfire, Bolivian coins, and then other money, personal items, pocket knife with a worn wooden handle, small notebook with scribbled notes in Spanish, likely directions or a safe house, Sundance Kid, revolver still clutched in left hand, 2 spent cartridges, extra bullets, jacket, worn boots, small coins, folded bills tucked in inner vest pockets, pocket knife, scraps of paper with addresses, and then apparently both of them had pocket mirrors as well on their person. So
mirrors, so they could kind of check their hat, their hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah. So, but yeah, that's basically all I know. All we have on it. I mean, it's an interesting history and interesting movie. And folks, the movie's a strong recommend for me. It's like a 9.5, 10 for me. It's perfect.
Yeah, I love the movie. It's a very artistic take on their life and what happened with them. They really captured the spirit of the characters. I think of the accounts and how people describe them. Redford and Newman do a fantastic job portraying the characters, and I think, they don't there's liberties taken with a lot of the events, and of course it's condensed, just like every movie is when you're talking about a long time frame. But I think they do a great job of capturing the spirit of what happened and the lives of these actual people.
Absolutely. Yep, definitely. All right, folks, as we wrap up, Heather, what have we got going on this week?
Oh, what do we got going on? I guess on PCB this week, we're going to cover Hellraiser, which I think is scary as hell. I know I saw it when I was super young, as all these horror movies, I don't watch them much today because I don't like to be scared, but I saw that when I was a kid or really young, and I was like freaked out by it. So I don't know. That should be good. Should be interesting.
That's at 7 p.m. on Overlord DVD's channel. So check that out. And then also Friday Night Frolics, your wrench in the chat. And I also participate in that. So go to Overlord DVD's channel. Doomcock is great. He's one of our best friends. He's just amazing. Go support him. He's great. Coming up on my channel, I'm going to do a couple of Halloween things. I'm going to try and do either a video or a live stream about the Disney version of Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, cool.
And then also one of the things that I've loved for years is The Simpsons Halloween. I don't know if I'm going to do a live stream or not, but I'm going to give you my top 10 episodes of those. So if you like both of those. Then in November, we're going to get back into it. We got the hits of 76. We got another episode of The Pacific. And then we're going to figure out another Western movie to talk about. So stick with us on Rob Wright Chance Pop Culture. Please like, subscribe, share. I need the watch hours, folks, because if I get monetized, we're going to do a lot of fun things. So, but anyway, want to thank you guys for watching. Let us know what your thoughts are on Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. What do you think of the movie? What do you think happened in real life? Let us know below in the comments. Take care and have a great evening, y'all.
Thank you, guys. Great seeing you again.
See ya.
Yeah.